Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. You know, roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have.
You'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right?
Yeah.
I want the man's coolant.
And he's like, oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light.
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West.
Internet. You know, is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
It loves to be driven hard.
Welcome to Auto Off Topic. Hello, Brad.
Good evening, Andrew. How are you today?
I'm good. Hopefully, we did not step over each other. That was a weird recording issue. It happens every once in a while on using Zencaster. A little behind the scenes here. Normally,
Yeah, I guess it was only for a short period of time in the podcast, too. Only for
Well,
a 2-minute segment.
I caught most of it and I fixed most of it, but I was moving stuff around and I had adjusted it and then unadjusted it by accident. So, because usually how I edit this, I can look at the waveforms. I can see when I'm talking, when you're not talking, because it's literally like blank on my wave. You've got sound and vice versa. So,
Sure.
but yeah, I was moving stuff around because we had a loud dog bark last week. I was cutting it out. So, but anyway, that's, buy me a coffee, I guess, and I'll hire an editor. I don't know.
Isn't that coffee spelled Kofe?
Okay. Yeah.
One E at the end, maybe? I don't remember.
Maybe. I don't know. It's free content. It every once in a while we've got a little technical issue, but it's just whatever. It happens. No big deal.
And we genuinely
it's annoying.
appreciate those who stick around and listen regardless. So
Yeah. It's, and you can give us direct feedback. If it's like really crummy or something for some reason, you just write in the Discord. Another reason to join Discord. Get a
Sure.
hotline right to me. Yeah, I mean, it's more annoying if we had a guest, but if it's just the two of us, who cares?
we can always just redo it. Pretend it never
Yeah,
happened.
we had that one a couple of weeks ago where it just simply did not record my side.
Totally lost and
So-
gone forever.
I should have just released it, and people could have pretended that they were just talking to you. They could, like a
Just
Choose Your
fill
Own
in the
Adventure
blanks.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mad Libs Auto Off Topic podcast. But anyway, what do you got going on?
Oh, I mean, going on. What have I done car wise?
Car wise, or garage wise? I think you guys got the shed down, so you're like prepping for it.
Yeah, we had that last week, I think.
You
Already chatted.
yeah, you talked about that last week.
We already
Okay,
chatted shed. Yep. So this week we destroyed the old shed. I think we already talked about that too.
that's what I meant. You took down the old shed.
Oh,
I don't think
okay,
you
hadn't
talked about that.
yet. All right, so the old shed has been taken down. It's still in the backyard because we need to figure out somebody to come get all of our metal scrap.
I'm
Because
sure.
it's a big metal shed. Yeah.
I'm
The
sure
problem
there's a
is-
scrap metal guy.
Yeah. The problem is like I can leave it out front, but then people will be going out front and then carrying big pieces of metal around my yard and my cars. So I don't want to do that. Naomi actually cut a bunch of it up yesterday with the little, like a little die grinder with a metal blade on it. So she cut a bunch of like the long, thin pieces up. Put it in the recycling bin.
Okay, here's what you do though. Just go on Craigslist and find a scrap metal guy and just call the guy. Don't just wait for randoms to show up.
Yeah, you're probably right. But the problem is getting it from the backyard to the front yard. Still have to do that. So
Okay, but you can, yeah, like obviously, like the guy should not charge you anything for it. He'll just show up with his truck and
yeah, it's free metal, so it's money for him.
yeah,
It's got to be a few 100 pounds anyway of metal
yeah.
shed.
So there's probably 100 guys on Craigslist that'll come. And,
yeah, probably. We have one neighbor who I assume would probably take it too if I went and knocked on his door.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Big lifted truck with no suspension.
Oh, he can use it to make more lift stuff for his truck.
Yeah, exactly. But he'd probably take it. So, anyway, yeah. So the old shed is down. That is a.
Excuse me, sir. It looks like you like junk. Would you like some junk?
If I get a deal for you, but I don't want to show him the backyard because he'll take all my stuff, all my beautiful junk.
Yeah.
I don't want to get rid of my beautiful junk.
Don't touch my junk.
All I want. Don't touch my junk. This is my good junk. Don't touch my good junk. Anyway, so yeah, the old shed is down. The area where the new garage is going to be going is now cleared off. So the next step, we still don't have 100% approval on everything yet. We're still waiting for some things to come back. So we're not going to do any more demolition until that happens. The way we're sitting right now, like if for some reason we don't get approved for something, we had to buy a new shed anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, that shed needed to go.
Yes, it did. It was very annoying.
Need a tetanus shot just looking at it.
It wasn't only that; it was the fact that it was so short. Like the wall height was only like 4 feet.
Oh,
and then
people were shorter back then.
Middle. Apparently, in 1977, people were much shorter then. Evolution has come a long way from the people who were still here from 1977 till now. But yeah, unfortunately, it was not a great shed. But it's gone. So, well, that's not true. It's not gone. It's still in my yard. But it's knocked down. So that's the important part. The good thing is that with that shed gone and having cars parked across the back where the garage is going to be, it really gives me a good idea of how much I could fit in a 30-foot wide garage. Excuse me. And it's a lot. If I have just my normal small cars, I could do 4 cars wide in there without even thinking about it. So lifts are going to make it actually less cars floor space wise, but more cars overall. So yeah, it's a lot of space. So 30 feet, I was a little nervous about, but not seeing 30 feet and standing in 30 feet and having it like marked out. Currently within that 30 feet, I have parked the Mustang, Toyota pickup, Blue Colt, and brown Corolla wagon. And there's like space to walk in between them. So 30 feet is a good amount of space, I guess. But yeah, that's all I've really done. I did pull the radiator out of the Starion finally to get it to a radiator shop. I haven't gotten it to a radiator shop. So, hey, one thing at a time here. But it is out of the car, sitting next to the car, so I can bring that somewhere. And everything else has pretty much just stayed. It's been too busy with other stuff. We had, obviously, taking down the shed. We took everything out of the shed. Then things needed to get started loaded in the new shed. So it became a whole thing. I did purchase a swamp cooler for working on things. I don't know why I didn't purchase a swamp cooler years ago. It is like the best thing ever.
It's
Go ahead.
It's funny because they're called swamp coolers because like that's not something here growing up you wanted.
Well, they don't work
be swampy.
There. Yeah, they don't work there because what they do is they cool the air by making it more humid. So basically, you fill a water tank in the bottom, and there's a pump that pumps water to the top, and it runs down over these wicker elements, and a fan blows air past these water elements, or draws air in through the water elements and then through the fan to an open area in the front, and it blows cool air on you. So we actually had it set up in the backyard under an easy up while I was working on the Starion radiator, and it was 108 degrees out in the sun, and it made it so that it was completely bearable underneath the easy up. It was actually like almost shivering standing in front of it. So it works amazingly when there's no humidity in the air. The issue comes when the humidity gets over a certain percentage. It doesn't even work anymore because it just blows hot air because the air is already humid and sticky and awful. So it works. It works really good. We used it in the garage last night because we were doing a house project, installing a flush kit into our instant on hot water heater, because when the previous owner of the house put the hot water heater in, they just cut all the corners they could and did not put any kind of flush kit in there. So that had to be flushed out and a flush kit installed. But we were able to, again, it was 110 degrees yesterday, put that evaporative air cooler or a swamp cooler in the garage, and it was probably 75 degrees in the garage and nice temperature. So it is a huge, huge help with the heat here. And I'd never bought one. I never had one before, so I don't really know much about how they work. But I highly recommend it if you live in a dry climate. For sure. It makes all the difference in the world. So the eventual plan is obviously to air condition the new garage, but until that happens, I'll have this because I bought one that does enough square footage to do the entire area of the garage to cool it off. So a wise investment they are. But yeah, there's no other car project has happened around here. You done any events, Andrew?
Yeah, I was tipped off to a monthly cruise night in Marblehead.
Interesting. Who runs it? Do you know?
And who was it?
Who's the organizer?
Someone named Tucker. I introduced myself, and then he was too busy handing out stickers and stuff as cars were coming in. But so it's Marblehead Cruisin'. And it was this younger guy named Tucker. Seemed like he had a Land Rover, and like I was kind of looking at the Instagram. I was like kind of trying to scope out the vibe. I was like, well, it's kind of feels like a lot of like Land Rover pictures. I was like, oh, it's kind of like an overlandy thing. We'll see. There's some other stuff. So I already had the Montero was kind of already ready to go. I buffed the vent visors that needed to be buffed because they were all cloudy, and I've been meaning to do that. So it gave me a reason to go do that. And I was working from home anyways, so it was easy to just go over at 5:30. And so it's like, if you're not familiar with this area, like Marblehead is right on the water. It's
Sure.
like,
It looked like the show was at the beach.
yeah, it's probably like 5 miles as the crow flies from my house. Probably longer with our curvy roads, but very close. Actually, over by where I used to go to college, Salem State, and on the other side, you have to go through Salem, where we grew up, and it was, it's Devereaux Beach, but what's the beach that's on the opposite side? It's some other name. I only know Devereaux Beach.
Yeah, I've always known the whole place is Devereaux Beach.
And it's on 129, and it would go out to Marblehead Neck, and there's like a little causeway, and that's one of our little cruising routes we used to do in high school.
Sure.
Because you could go out to Castle Rock, which
is that the name of it?
Yeah, it's Castle Rock.
Marblehead Light?
It's Marblehead Light and also Castle Rock. You never went to Castle Rock? So it's like a public path. You can go down to these rocks that are right on the water next to this house that looks like a castle. So people call it Castle Rock. And when you're in high school and you're not old enough to drink and there's nothing else to do in the summertime, you'd go down there and hang out.
We used to hang out at Fort Sewell, which is also
yeah. So anyway, I was like, oh, this is cool. Bunch of good mix of cars showed up. There's a bunch of random fancy cars in that area. It's a really wealthy town. Like there was a 944 turbo, and that,
Oh yeah,
like,
fancy
308
cars like a
showed up.
944.
Oh, a 944 turbo is not a cheap car anymore.
No, they're not, unfortunately.
And there was a bunch of Land Rovers and some other stuff. Some guys brought their like Model A's, so it was cool.
Yeah, it looked like a pretty interesting mix. Like there was definitely something for everybody.
Yeah, it was only like maybe 25 cars, so it was good.
Yeah, it's a good amount. You don't want it to be overwhelming and get yourself thrown out of there. So
Looks like the next one will be in like July on, I guess it's Tuesday nights usually. So I'm gonna go to the next one.
yeah, it's once a month on Tuesdays. It sounds like, right?
Yep. And he made like really cool stickers that he gave out that were like parking permits for like beach. Is it beach? Am I good at beach? So I don't know, like, I don't know if it's like just around here, but like people get beach permits and it's usually like an outline of like the town or something.
Yeah, it's like a beach parking permit.
Yeah, it's like they're usually like 2-color. I don't know. It was a good idea for a sticker. It was cool.
So it looks like a beach parking permit, but it's actually just an event sticker.
Yeah, it just says Marblehead, like abbreviated Marblehead Cruisin', and it's like valid only at Devereaux Beach or something. And like,
Yeah, so you can just park at Devereaux Beach now and not worry about getting a ticket. You're official.
Yeah.
You're in.
I put it on the truck because I was like, oh, it looks cool.
Yep.
So
No, it looked like a neat little time. I was a little jealous that exists now and not when I lived there, because it's a cool location. I like to park cars in front of that. There's a little like covering on Devereaux Beach that there's the benches underneath, and I have actually a bunch of pictures of like the Blue Colt and the Cressida and everything parked right at that waterfront area right there. Because I actually for a while worked in Marblehead, and I can go over there at lunchtime and eat lunch on the ocean and take some pictures. So it's a neat little spot. Very cool. I was, like I said, a little jealous. Look like a cool turnout. So
yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for. It was not, it was like kind of like a Valley Vibes. That was my impression.
okay, yeah, just very low key, very similar to the kind of meets that we always talk about wanting to go to. No pretensions. No.
Yeah, but I
issues,
never
no...
take any initiative to make them.
Right, so we had to go to them. That's all.
Yeah,
perfectly fine. So excellent. I did a couple. One event. I went to the 4 till 4 event last week here, just because I had been out of town for a few weeks, so I figured I'd stop by. And it was cool enough in the morning that it worked out, but it wasn't anything. It was 4 till 4's fast cars, so it's really not my crowd. There was a friend of a friend has a Maserati Shamal, which is a really cool V8 front engine rear drive Maserati from the 80s. It looks similar to a bi-turbo but cooler. That was there, but everything else was kind of those nice NSX, a couple of nice Porsches as always, but mostly it was Lamborghinis and whatever the latest and greatest Lambo and Ferrari are. So not my normal scene, but went to it anyway just to get out of the house for a little bit and check that out, and wanted to meet up with a couple of friends to talk about this weekend going to the Rallycross that's up north. So heading up there on Saturday evening. They're doing a nighttime Rallycross. The plan was to have the Starion ready for that, but much like every other time I've tried to plan the Starion being ready for something, it's just not. So it's fine. But yeah, that's the only event I've done around here as well. So it's been kind of a slow week, honestly, Andrew. Sounds like for both of us, actually. Just a bunch of real world, real life stuff happening, taking away from our car stuff.
Yeah, I was just kind of like busy, so.
Yeah, well, I've been busy, and then also I've been watching the Celtics, so it takes some of my time too.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can win the next game and take it in 4 and be all done.
I know that was a heck of a game the other night. So
It was an amazing game last night. Yes. We'll see. Not a
But-
Celtics podcast. So speaking of
Nope.
sports, this
Yeah.
weekend is the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So that will be cool to watch. You were mentioning to me that it is on HBO.
Yes, they are broadcasting it not on NBC or Peacock. It's actually on, if you've got HBO Max, you can watch it. And in fact, you could stream. They had all the practices too, which is cool. Like, I was sitting at work and I just put it on my phone, put on my headphones, and just listened to it. Which, I don't know, it's like, man, I really like the ASMR of like racetrack sounds.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Because it's just like you can hear the cars going around when the announcers are talking, and you can like, you listen behind them and you can hear all the garage stuff that's happening, like air guns, and I don't know, that's like very, I don't know, I like it. Like,
Yeah,
it's like
we
that.
discussed that when we went to the 24 hour of Daytona this year. Like, just sitting there and just taking in all of the sounds is almost as cool as actually watching the race. Just being a part of it.
Like, I recently watched again Interstellar, and when they're in space, Matthew McConaughey's character has listening to just like crickets, like on his iPad or iPhone or iPod or whatever. He's like, oh yeah, it just calms you down, man. He like gives it to the other guy because it's just like, because you're in space and it's probably quiet. Just sounds like
Yeah,
Earth.
just
So
empty nothingness. I've
Yeah,
not watched
so-
Interstellar. Sounds like I probably should.
you've never seen it?
No, I have not.
Whoa, it's really, really good. It might even be. I watched it on Amazon. Might even be on Amazon right now.
All right, I'll try to remember.
There's
So
Yeah,
many movies I feel like I've missed in the past few years. So
it's that one's worth a watch.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So just like listening to it, I don't know, it's cool. I like it.
no, I get it. I get it. I put a lot of racing on in the garage when I'm working on things just to have it in the background, not even watching it the whole time.
Yeah. So I didn't get to. I didn't watch the IndyCar race at Road America. I meant to. I should probably just watch the recap.
Water through it. I started watching it.
Yeah, because I'm trying to get into IndyCar now. Because being at the Indy 500, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I should watch more of this.
No, it is really
I
cool.
watched
The racing's really good.
Yeah, it is really good. Especially because I did have the F1 race on, and that was not exciting for me. I don't know.
Snooze fest. Yeah, no, there was a lot of passing already just in the first quarter of the IndyCar race that I watched. So it's definitely good stuff.
And then did you watch any of the highlights of the Xfinity race? So they were at Portland the week before, SVG one, and then they went to Sonoma. So back-to-back road courses.
Which means back-to-back SPG wins.
Yes.
Not the men's manual.
Yeah, the guy put on a clinic two weeks in a row. And they're not even in like, they're in Gen 6 cars, so they're not really, they're similar to Australian supercars. The current Cup cars would be more similar, I think.
Sure.
But
yeah, they're still
whatever.
It's a Gen 6 car is still an old school NASCAR. It's still a solid rear axle. It's still an H pattern shifter. It's an old school car. So, but it's still cool to watch him just adapt to that and dominate road courses every time they go to one. He's struggling a little bit, it seems, to adapt to the oval because it's such a different
yeah,
style
it's
of
a totally
racing.
different thing.
But
And yeah, Dale Jr. was talking about that on the podcast. There's just a whole thing with the rear diffuser and how you have to make sure you're in clean air and all this thing. And if you don't know that, it's really hard to pick up on that. But it's interesting because he's running a limited schedule SVG that he didn't run the Cup race.
correct.
Which is funny. The announcers during the Cup race were like, I don't know why you wouldn't put him in this race.
Yeah, he's already
But-
there.
Yeah. Well, he was apparently a spotter for Brown. forget his first name. He was Chris. He's an Australian.
Yep.
He came over to drive.
Yeah, I don't remember his name either.
Well, it was a bummer because he was doing really well, and then the car just had like electrical issues, and like he didn't really get to drive in the Cup race.
Yeah, my assumption is
'cause he
that's
was-
why SVG didn't run the race, because they were giving an opportunity to another non-circuit driver, is my guess.
Well, different team.
Different team, but I'm sure there's only limited space in the track too. So
Yeah. So that's a little bummer because he showed some good speed, and then like race was fairly interesting because they had the repave and the track was very fast. They're breaking all the records.
Yep.
I think Logano broke the track record for qualifying.
he did.
What's that?
I said he did. Yes.
Yep. And then like 2 laps in, just like Hamlin's engine exploded.
Denny
It's like-
Hamlin set the track record for shortest stint in the race.
I was trying to remember, like I haven't seen an engine blow up in a while.
Well, they lost a
Like-
motor last week, less catastrophically. Was it Blaney last week that had a motor let go?
That was Bell,
Bell, yeah, Chris Bell. I had a
but
motor
it
let
like
go.
barely blew up.
It still ran. It just
Yeah.
wasn't running right, and it wound up being some kind of top end issue. But yeah, the 11 car, Denny Hamlin there, he blew up like it was full on smoke show out the tailpipes. So
Yeah.
something big let go.
Which is weird because that's really unusual, like this day and age.
Well, he was saying that it was the second or third race for that engine,
Oh, okay.
so it was due for a rebuild after the race anyway. But what he's bummed about is that he's like, man, I should have planned to run 2 or 3 more laps at practice. He's like, because then it would have blown up then, and we could have fixed it and put a brand new motor in the car for the race and been fine. But alas, we did not, and we blew up,
Yeah.
and life is bad. So,
But pretty interesting race. Some guys had some big speed, and then just Larson just so gosh darn quick.
yeah, I don't understand.
And those Hendrick cars, yeah. He's in a good car, good team.
He's a good driver with a good team and a good car. It's a good combination, and he can't.
Yeah.
He's almost unstoppable. He hit 5 victories this year.
I couldn't believe how quickly he caught the leaders. I mean, he had fresher tires.
Well, he had 2 things going for him. He had fresher tires, and
Yep.
they were battling.
Yeah.
So obviously, when you're
Again,
battling,
the clean
you're gonna
air.
run slower. Not even clean air. They're gonna run slower times because they're racing each other versus just trying to cut fast lap times. You know, when you're further back by yourself, you're just able to concentrate and cut a fast lap time and not trying to block the guy trying to pass you or pass the guy trying to block you. It makes life a lot easier to cut faster laps. So anytime you see first and second place close battling, third place will catch them pretty quickly. So, but then it's obvious how much his skill is above and beyond once he gets to them because he drove by them like they were sitting still. So, and then it was his race to the end at that point. There was no question. But I was saying, like, watching the race, like, man, it'd be easier just to like this guy. It's so frustrating when the person that you like the least wins so much.
Even on the it feels like how to be when you weren't a Jeff Gordon fan in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. Similar setup. But it is what it is. He's not the only one to win this year, so that's good. But I hope he doesn't take a championship. That'd be annoying, but hey. It is what it is. He did get his waiver.
Strong contender.
So he did get the waiver, so he'll be able to participate in the championship. But
Yep.
anyway, off of NASCAR.
Oh yeah, we were talking about Lamar. I just remember late breaking Penske car on the pole. Penske Porsche.
Late breaking, but not surprising.
No. I believe it was the number 6 car. So,
Well, it's so late breaking, I haven't even seen the news yet, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But all right, so I have a conversation to have with you this evening.
okay.
I've been having these conversations lately with a couple different people have brought up this subject. And I will admit that I've been annoyed by some of this recently as well. But the conversation has been that we're being priced out of the car market. There aren't any cars to buy anymore that are worth buying as a secondary fun car that are affordable. And while I agree that cars have gotten expensive, I would also disagree that you can't find a fun car that you can afford and still have money left over to personalize and use this vehicle for all kinds of fun automotive events. So by fun automotive events, I mean the things that we like doing with cars. So go to a Cars and Coffee, maybe depending on the car, go to a track night or a autocross, or if cars are beat up, a rallycross or a TSD road rally, or just, those Saturday night, summertime, windows down, long drives along the coastline there in New England or up into the mountains here in Arizona. So I am of the thought process that there are still a plethora of cars out there that you could do this, buy the car, and have money left over to personalize the car for these uses for sub $10,000. And is it frustrating that if you want a 944, like you mentioned earlier, or a proper Mark 1 Rabbit GTI, or I don't know, a second gen RX-7, or any cars that we used to consider as being like cheap, affordable fun cars, they're no longer cheap, affordable fun cars? Absolutely. But that being said, there are tons of cheap, affordable cars out there if you think just a little bit outside the box. And this kind of goes into my conversation I've had many times in the past of ignore the car that everybody tells you need to buy the car you want to buy, and buy the car you can afford to buy. And there's plenty of stuff out there. So what I challenged you with, Andrew, and I did the same thing, was to go on your local Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, find a car, and give yourself a budget of 10 grand to buy the car and some tasteful, quick little personalization things that you could do, and bring it up to me. So kind of a modified version of Craig, Don't Tell Me, because I do want to make me guess the car, and I'll do the same to you. But there are just so many options out there if you think a little bit outside the box and start searching with a budget in mind instead of the actual exact kind of car you want in mind. So did you have any luck finding something in that range, Andrew?
If I understood the assignment correctly, this felt really easy, like not a challenge at all.
Okay. Well, this is the thing. I was having the conversation with somebody that, with $10,000, which I think that if you're in the market for a secondary car, I think that if you want to reasonably say, I can own a car, afford to have a car, you should be able to spend about $10,000. Do you think that number's too high? Do you think it should be $5,000?
Yeah, $10,000 is a lot. Like,
okay, so let's roll it back. For $5,000, do you think you can buy a car and still have money to register it, maintain it, and put a little time and effort into it? I said 10 because I was thinking of like you buy a car in the $5,000 range and you have money for wheels, tires, and suspension.
Well, yeah, I mean, 10 is fine. It's like I've never had 10 grand to play with for a used car.
Right.
So,
but again, that's why I was saying overall. So when you think about any car that you have, yeah, you didn't spend 10 grand on it, but you're probably 10 grand in it by the time you're done with it.
I mean, technically, my Volvo fits this challenge.
It does.
Even
but
with the busted engine.
But that car doesn't run. So
it doesn't matter. Even with if I had bought the car and had a $10,000 budget, I could still have the engine fixed.
Sure.
Under that budget.
I should have added the caveat that the car should run and drive.
Okay.
So something you can get in and enjoy right away. Something that, we
Okay.
talk about, they talk about muscle cars back in the day, the day two cars, right? So you buy the car from the dealership lot, and day two, it's got wheels and tires, and in the 60s and 70s, your air shocks in the back, or a little spoiler on the trunk lid, or something along those lines. So little personalizations that were day two mods. So something that you could buy, do a few day two things, and put back on the road and drive immediately and enjoy immediately without much effort in the sub 10 grand budget. So it sounds like that was too easy of a challenge. So we'll do it this way this time, and next time we'll go even more expensive, even less expensive, further proving that there's plenty of cars out there that you can afford to buy and enjoy. You just
Maybe it's just like the area.
Maybe, but I had no problem. I could find cars for less than 10 grand too. I just was thinking that it's 2024, $10,000 seems like a good number.
Yeah. How are you going to make me guess the car?
You can read the ad or tell me specs about that particular car. However you want to do it. This isn't a very well thought out plan. It was just a conversation I thought was worth having based on conversations I've had recently about prices of cars.
I'll try, because a couple of them don't have good descriptions, but good enough.
You can add some English here to get me across the board if you need to. So it's not Greg, don't tell me, but it's similar. And then tell me what your budget is for what you're doing to the car afterwards.
All right. You want to go first?
Sure. I'll go first. I got a couple cars I pulled up that fit this realm very well. And I tried to pick some cars that are outside the norm of a car that I would buy, because I wanted to just, think of myself as a normal person, not this weird esoteric car person, because it's very easy to find cars that are very cheap if you go esoteric. There was like a 77 Datsun 210 that was like $2,200. Now, I think that's a cool car and I could make that work, but I wouldn't put that on to somebody for their quote unquote first collector car, because it would be difficult to find parts. You couldn't find aftermarket parts. You have to make things or have things made or really dig deep into old owners groups somehow. So I went a little bit outside my normal box, and I found some stuff that I would think that somebody who's in the market for a first collector car would choose. So here's car number one, Andrew. It is you might as well make it Greg, don't tell me. I'll just read the ad. Ready? This is a blank 5.7 automatic, 133,000 miles, T-tops, 2-door, clean title, everything works, new tires. Asking $5,900.
As opposed to a 4-door T-top.
Correct.
Well, sounds like a third-gen Camaro.
Exactly. So this is a 1989 Z28 IROC Z.
White. Sounds pretty cool.
White over a red interior with the polished factory wheels, some sort of aftermarket steering wheel, a red interior. It isn't automatic, so that's negative points. But again, this is your first collector car. It has a very clean interior, complete interior, crack-free dash, glass T-tops, very nice paint, and the car is $5,900.
That sounds awesome.
That sounds amazing. And that was like, I even said when I pulled this car up that this challenge is way too easy, and I can't understand why people think cars are too expensive, because $6,000 for this car is perfect. Is it a 911?
Nope.
No. Is it a matching numbers Hemi Barracuda? Absolutely not. But is it a car that you could get in, go to your local Cars and Coffee with, and have a good time? Absolutely. Could you autocross it? Sure. Why not? Could you road trip it? Sure. It's a V8 automatic. Like, this car could do all of the things you want a fun car to do, not break the bank, be fairly reliable, and be fixed at any parking lot AutoZone from here to Massachusetts and anywhere in between. So that was my first number one car. And I was like, for $5,900, you could buy this car. You could source a factory steering wheel or better looking aftermarket steering wheel. You could still put a set of wheels on it. update the suspension. You're into a set of wheels these cars look really good with Z06 wheels on them. You can buy replica Z06 wheels for like $1,500. Update the suspension with some new shocks and springs for probably $2,500. So now you're into the whole car for $8,000 and you have a pretty neat 89 IROC Z. And I don't think that spending that kind of money on this car, you could probably get that money back when you went to sell it. Because I think that if you made those mods, the car would be appealing to somebody else. And at $5,900, you're not going to lose, provided there's no catastrophic engine failure the day after you buy it. But so that's the kind of thought process I had, Andrew. Just trying to get something out there, and maybe we'll do this again in the future, and we'll think of some more parameters to make it a little more difficult. But this is just day number 1 here. So I'm buying an '89 IROC Z for $5,900. Not actually buying it, but I should, because that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it does sound pretty good. All right, you want me to go?
It is your turn, sir.
Okay. I don't know. This one's a little outside, but I think I like it.
Outside is the thing. We're trying to find something here that will appeal to the masses without being too weird or too expensive.
So, this is one of your favorite type of cars. It was sitting for 10 years. The pictures on Craigslist are definitely on the back of the guy's trailer, who probably just pulled it out of the garage for like $500 and is now selling it off his trailer for a markup. Was sitting 10 years, drained gas, installed new battery, runs good, has an exhaust leak or two, needs a driver's door window, which is flat glass, automatic transmission, and power steering. It's a 6-cylinder wheel drive. There's not much else in the ad. I don't think you're going to get much else out of this.
Oh, it's flat glass side window, so it's something from the 50s.
Yep.
Says inline 6-cylinder. Is it a flathead 6?
I don't know. I don't know much about these.
So it's I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say it's a 51 Dodge.
Wow. Yeah, it's a Chrysler product. 54 Chrysler Windsor.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, those
white.
are very high on my radar, actually.
It looks like a 4-door. Of course, yeah, that's the other thing. Terrible pictures, but it's white, like a cream white, a red top. It's got the visor. It was registered recently because it's got modern antique tags on it from Massachusetts.
And how much is this car?
$3,500.
So for $3,500, he says it runs. You probably need to drop the tank out and have it professionally cleaned.
Yep.
So you could do that, run some new fuel lines. I'd probably change out the brake lines, put a set of tires on it.
Yep.
And you're probably into that car for $6,000 or less.
Yeah. And it's you could do a real cool cruiser out of this thing.
Leave it patinaed, put a nice set of either fresh steel wheels and tires or a set of some kind of period aluminum wheel like a Krager or an Astro Supreme or something along those lines, and lower the car and have a pretty cool cruiser for not much money. So those Dodges are high on my list when somebody says, I want an old car that has a ton of personality and doesn't cost a lot of money. Because
there you go.
A 53 Chevy, say, Bel Air 210, whatever, in a 2-door or even a 4-door with an inline 6 is going to be $10,000 to $15,000 minimum for a nice, solid running car. The equivalent Dodge Plymouth Chrysler DeSoto is going to be $4,000 to $5,000 for a good running car. $9,000 for one with nice paint, and then $20,000 for a show car. So the value proposition in buying one of those Dodges is incredibly high. They weren't offered with V8s, so they're all flathead 6s. They're not fast by any means, but neither was the V8 Chevys, to be honest with you. But they make super cool cruisers, and you can buy a very nice example for less than $10,000. And that's one of my all-time go-to answers for somebody that wants something of that kind of era, somebody that wants an early car to just cruise around in. Is those Chrysler products of the early 50s are stupid cheap for very cool cars. So yeah, no, that's a perfect example of what I was looking for, Andrew. And this game isn't really a game so much as it's just a proof positive point to people out there that you can buy cool shit cheap still, even in 2024. So I got one more here for you, Andrew. We'll go over it real fast. This goes the total opposite way of the Camaro. It's still a very fun vehicle that can be used for all kinds of different things. I probably wouldn't autocross it because you'd probably not have a good time, but you could do other kinds of events with this vehicle. Blank, 60,000 miles, runs great, recent work done, new aluminum radiator, hoses, thermostat, yada, 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 new Weber 3236 carburetor, stainless steel header, new upholstered bucket seats, 5 matching Ford brand Alcoa wheels, but not on a Ford. Set up for a tow bar if you want, ready to use as a daily driver or a weekend cruiser. So this is a little bit tougher. This is a 4-passenger vehicle. It is a 1.3 or a 1.6, depending on the year. I don't know which years came with which. It is a 5-speed manual, and it is really neat looking. And it's fully ready to go, and you could buy this for $6,500 today.
1.3 liter
Yes.
with a Weber.
Yes. I think the later ones were 1.6s, but this is probably 1.3.
And Ford wheels fit it?
Ford wheels do fit it, yes.
Oh, I don't know. I got nothing. Nothing's coming to me.
A Suzuki Samurai.
Oh, okay.
So it has axles like a truck. So
All
it
right,
can run
all right.
5-lug
That makes
Ford
sense.
Ranger Alcoa wheels. For $6,500, you get a soft top 4x4 super fun vehicle that you could take to a Cars and Coffee or a Adventure Machines Cars and Coffee, or go out on a trail ride or go off-roading, four-wheeling. I mean, there's all kinds of cool stuff you could do with this truck for $6,500. Again, I think I should go buy this car because I want it. And it runs and drives as is and is good to go. And it already has some cool aftermarket stuff on it. Like, I wouldn't even want to do anything else to this car. I don't love the Ford Ranger wheels on it. I'd probably change them out for something else. Maybe do a set of steel, like skinny steels for that proper samurai look. But I mean, what a cool way to spend $6,000, have a cool second car, and be able to go do cool car things. So, just again, further proof, things do exist.
Yeah.
This one probably isn't great to run here in the summertime because the top doesn't cover the back seats. But you could also probably buy a top for it. They're probably not that expensive and still be well under 10 grand. So, I really want another 2-door Raider, but
Yeah.
this is also very cool.
I mean, I've got several of these, but I've got like 2 more that would probably be pretty cool.
All right, throw me one more. We'll each do 2. We'll keep it easy. And we'll tweak it for next time. This is just a first time experiment.
All right. Here we go. 5-speed manual, all-wheel drive, 2-liter turbo, second owner. Engine's mechanically sound, interior in good condition, AC not working. Exterior has issues with rust, rot at quarter panels and miscellaneous other dents. Both front and rear quarter panels were simply patched with aluminum 3M Scotch auto body repair tape.
Oof.
A couple years ago, it was required to pass Massachusetts state inspection.
I don't like this car at all.
Exhaust leak near manifold. The front tire is good. Rear tire is worn. Needs alignment. Typical maintenance repair. Valve covers, interstate battery, rear brakes, front brakes, brake lines, radiator.
Okay. This is a WRX.
Yes.
So they had me at valve covers, but I don't want to recommend that car to anybody.
Um,
That is a bad choice of a car.
I
to
mean,
recommend to somebody.
if you had 10 grand, it's a
Yeah,
wagon.
but that's not a get in it and enjoy it now car, because that car, if it has patches for aluminum tape over
Yeah,
holes, imagine how
so-
bad the rest of the car is. That car needs strut towers.
Yeah.
It needs an alignment. You know what? It needs an alignment. He hasn't done it yet because all of the adjusting hardware is frozen in place. That's a bad car.
I mean, well, it's funny, right? So it's a 2002 Bug-Eye wagon.
Okay, so definitely needs strut towers in the rear.
Yeah, so the rear of the front, yeah, the rear of the fenders, the front fenders, the fenders, is just all blue tape from like the belt line down.
Yeah, just flopping in the breeze.
The rear quarters are rusted, so yes, this absolutely needs rear strut towers, and that's probably why the rear alignment is off because it's about to break through.
Yeah, and the fact that you can't adjust anything because it's all frozen.
But it's $2,500.
Okay,
Right? 10 grand to play with. You can make this into a cool rallycross.
Okay,
pig.
so my thought process with this was buy a decent car that you're not going to hate yourself for buying. Something that you can get in, you can enjoy, and maybe your work on the car is relegated to weekend upgrades or small maintenance things, not reconstructing an entire 2002 WRX because it's been 22 years of New England life. That was a little outside because if you want to go full project, there are tons of cars out there.
All right,
for $1,500, but they aren't.
I've got a much better one.
Okay,
for after.
Because I had a similar car pulled up because one of the things that we do talk about is that so-called halo cars are impossible to afford anymore. That's again your 911, your Supra, your 240Z, your Civic Si from the year 2000. Like these cars here, I've gone out of control money wise. So I did pull up a Nissan 280Z, which is the last of the early body style, for $4,500. But I didn't choose it because it needed too much work. And is it a good deal? Because yeah, it's an Arizona car for $4,500, meaning it doesn't need any rust repair. The interior is a little sun baked, but it's a Z car, so that's all available. And at $4,000, you could buy it. It does turn over and idle, but it doesn't. It says it runs, but it's not drivable. So whatever that means. But I on purpose didn't choose that car because I wasn't looking for a full-on restoration project. I was looking for something that you could get in, enjoy, and tinker with, not fully tear down and rebuild. So anyway, if you get one more for me to make up for that, we'll do it that way. How's that sound?
All right. Let's see. How do I? All right. This blank was parked high and dry in a garage for about 40 years. I did a complete brake and carburetor rebuild, replaced many electrical items, brand new gas tank, 4 new tires. Car is 100% functional. Car was delivered with standard 140 horsepower Lotus 907 engine. Pretty much all the other Brit 2-seaters came at about 100 horsepower. It was and remains a quick car. Car has a clean title, registered and inspected. It has a 5-speed transmission. Blah, 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 blah. Broken primary cable. Okay. Oh, replaced. I don't know the actual mileage. Cars on road, inspected, running, driving. Let's see. He's got new parts, includes clutch, pressure plate, shocks, springs, all front end bushings, spare electrical parts, new visors, weather stripping, new top. Car has minimal rust, one spot behind the driver's side door. Passenger side floor is solid but shows surface rust. Driver's floor is solid, but at some point, a form-fit fiberglass insert was placed in floor. It can easily be removed. But floor pan underneath shows no rust holes and is solid. So what do you think?
This is sub 10 grand and has Lotus power?
Yep.
So is it a Healy, like a Jensen Healy?
Yes.
Okay. That's the only
Jensen
thing.
Healy Mark V, 1975.
Okay.
Any guess on price?
$7,500.
$4,750.
Well, that seems really cheap.
This is a really cool car, and maybe if I didn't own the Volvo, I would be going to buy this.
Is it a convertible?
Yes.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm into that.
It's super cool and definitely meets all your requirements. Like, it's already been registered, inspected, so we know it drives. But you can make little updates to it as you go.
Yeah, no, I don't even know what you would do to that car because I don't know enough about them, but I assume it would respond well to all of the typical British car upgrades, like a set of 8-spoke banana spoke wheels of some manufacturer and a chin spoiler in the front and a little 4-point roll bar behind the seats. A cool little event car, and that would be a very good, occasional autocross TSD vehicle, or that's a neat car. Those have big bumpers, but they hid them pretty well.
Yeah.
They look like kind of like slightly larger Spitfires. It's kind of the only way I'd be able to describe a late Jensen Healy. But no, that's a very cool car, and that's like that puts you in a whole different class of car ownership at $4,000. I think like you would be accepted to a lot of higher end sports car events driving that car. It's not even, as much as I don't want to talk about elitism or be elite here, but you couldn't show up to a hoity-toity sports car event in the 89 IROC that I found.
No.
But you definitely could in a 74 Jensen Healy. Even though they cost about the same amount of money. It's a whole different ownership experience. But anyway, so basically the whole point of this exercise was just to prove that there are tons and tons and tons of cool cars out there. And just because the latest example of a 20,000 mile something sold on Bring a Trailer for $110,000 doesn't mean that we're priced out of the hobby. There's so much cool junk out there. And you just need to, like I've always said, think outside the box a little bit. And again, don't choose that Halo car. And if you want that Halo car, that's fine. But understand that that's the reason that it's expensive. Because everybody wants that car. And just because everybody wants that car doesn't mean that that car is at all that special. And you can attest to that. Like, you didn't like driving the 944. People think 944s are the world's gift to automotive handling. And you drove it and you're like, this car is terrible. So just because something is more popular than something else doesn't mean it is a better car. I bet that Jensen Healy is every bit as fun to drive, if not more so, than the 944. So I don't know. That was the whole point of the exercise. I think that point is proven, and there are plenty of cars out there. So if you have any thoughts on this and you want to improve how we did this or add to this little exercise somehow, hit us up in Discord, and we can chat away there. If you are looking at buying an old car and you want to chat about it, hit either one of us up on Instagram. I'm always willing to talk old cars and tell you why your choice is good or bad. And as long as you're not looking for actual opinions and not just affirmation, I'm more than willing to chat. So there's a bunch of cool stuff out there. Just put some money aside, buy something cool, and enjoy it. And don't worry what other people think about it. Because if that was the case, Andrew wouldn't have bought a Volvo. I wouldn't have Dodge Colts. So,
nope.
Buy it for you. Enjoy it for you. So, on that note, Andrew, want to call it an episode?
I'd say that's an episode. All right. Follow us on Facebook, Auto Off Topic Podcast, Auto Off Topic on Threads, Auto Off Topic on Instagram. I am Erased in Anger on Instagram and Threads, of course. Once again, go check out the Discord. And Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at TSISS350 and the same on Threads. And again, just as you have said and I've said a half a dozen times this episode, hit us up for a Discord invite and come chat about this stuff all the time. Where everybody
All right,
there
cool.
has a sub $10,000 project car.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. As always, keep cars analog and names the roses.